Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Storytale Cakes. In this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to make not just a minion, but a thug life minion. So without further ado, shall we get started? To start the minion, I've stacked 3 7-inch cakes roughly 2 inches in height each and filled them up with some delicious chocolate ganache. I then placed a 7-inch board on top as a guide to trim any excess. Once the minion was all carved, I just used an offset spatula and scraper to smooth the sides and tops of the minion. I've used a thick bubble tea straw and trimmed it flush to the cake. I've then taken it out of the cake and used it as a guide to cut out another 4 straws to the same height. Now we're going to use our bubble tea straws to put it into the cakes, and they're going to act as dowels for the cakes. It's really important you don't skip this step, because if you're making a 2-tier cake or 1-tier cake, if you're going to put like heaps of cakes stacked on top of each other and you don't put dowels in between, it's just going to go like not a pretty sight. Make sure when you place the bubble tea straws to spread them out on top of the cake so it's held evenly, and after I've placed my straws, I've added a bit of a ganache and placed another 7-inch board to stack the remaining cakes. I'm just adding a bit more chocolate goodness into the cake, and this time before adding chocolate to the outer layer, I've carved the minion beforehand and then added the chocolate coat. Okay, guilty confession, I actually keep all my cake crumbs for breakfast. What about you? Here's a random tip, just make sure you invest in a really sturdy acrylic scraper just to make the cake smoothing process much easier. So what we're going to do now is use a bit of warm water, like warm to hot water, not boiling. And then I'm just going to use my large scraper to kind of get it warmed up on the edge. This will really help our cake get that nice smooth finish. See how it's taking all that chocolate away? And you just want to go around and do this. And I'm just taking a little bit of white and wiping it out. And then, so that gives it that nice smooth finish. Okay, so now I'm just going to let this minion set for about 20 minutes before we put the fondant over it. It's heavy. Alright, we have chilled our cake, and now it's time to pop it onto our cake board. Now this process can be quite daunting, but don't worry, I'll guide you through it. So place your cake onto a turntable and use your turntable and offset spatula to help remove it from the board. Then place a bit of chocolate onto the cake board and lift and drop it down. There we go. I'm just using an 8cm circle cutter to slightly mark it onto my minion, just so I have a guide where the eye should be. So I'm just measuring how wide and long my fondant needs to be. I'm going to make 2 pieces of fondant for the minion and join it at the middle of the minion's eyes. You will notice once the minion's goggle straps are on, they will cover the seams, and this is why we needed to mark the eyes at the start as well. Apply a bit of water to your chocolate to help stick the fondant, and make sure the first piece of fondant reaches halfway of the eyes. To help cover the back of the seams, use Crisco, which is like a vegetable shortening. It helps smooth the 2 fondant pieces together and it works like magic. After smoothing and trimming the minion's bottom half, I'm now going to roll out the top part of the minion. Sometimes you may get bubbles, simply pop it with a pin. I use a toothpick here because I got a tad lazy to reach for the pin, but I recommend using a pin if you have air bubbles. Roll the fondant onto the rolling pin and gently unroll it onto the cake. I find it useful using a scissors to trim first so you can kind of see where the seam is, smooth it into the cake, and then touch up by cutting off any excess with a knife. I have a super cute little minion toy helper from McDonald's to help me decide where I'm going to indent the eye and goggle part, and I'm just using a cake scraper to mark the indents around the cake. Sometimes when you're working with fondant, especially a darker color, the food color can sometimes stain your hands, and it just gives you that stainy effect. So I like to use Crisco to help prevent that. I've conditioned it into the fondant, rolled it out, and cut a strip long enough to cover the minion's goggle area.
A handy tip is just to use the same circle cutter just to help cut off any excess. Here's an optional step for you, use the back of the knife to score the middle part for the extra detail. Okay, it's time to make the eyes. We're just going to cut out a 5cm white circle followed by a 3cm brown semicircle, a 2cm black semicircle and a small white 1cm circle. Now just using the back of the knife to create lines for a more realistic eye and cutting a yellow 5cm semicircle for the eyelid. Place the eye onto the cake with a bit of water, and now when we're creating the grey outer circle font, it should be roughly 2 cm thick. I'm using an 8cm circle cutter followed by a 5cm circle cutter inside. I've also just rolled 2 mini fondant cylinders out, scored them in the middle, and also scored the side of the circle. To help stick the cylinder pieces to the circle, add lines and adhere with water. Now place 8 mini fondant dots around the circle for extra detail and paint it a nice edible silver luster on both sides. The luster makes it look super realistically metal-like, so definitely don't miss this step. Also, don't worry if you see cracks at the back because it will all be covered once it's placed on the minion. I'm using 8 hearth toothpicks and poking it through the circle, but not completely, only 3/4 of the way because I don't want it to show through the front side of the circle. I'm going to let it set and dry for about 20 minutes and finish the other parts of the minion.
So I don't want to leave the fondant too long because it's going to start to set. I'm going to now do its mouth and give it a bit of a smirk. Just using a circle cutter, I'm just going to give it that little smirk. Check it out.
Hello! It's our minion's looking a little naked right now, so we need to add some clothes to it. Just using the toy as a reference, I'm going to mark where I want the clothes lines to be. To make sure my clothing lines are straight, I'm going to get a measuring tape to make sure my marks are even on both sides, and I'm just going to get a scraper to score the lines and marks. So all I did was roll black fondant and filled it into the lines I marked before and used a knife to trim off any excess. And of course our minion outfit is not complete without the white stripe, so I rolled 2 fondant white strips out and placed it around the cake.
Alright, so I just have this tool here. I don't know what it's called, but I'll find out and I'll put in the link in the description box below. I'm going to use it to create more details to the minions, just to give it a more, like, you know, detailed, realistic effect. So let's go ahead and add some details.
Roll out a 5cm black circle, add a white fondant strip to the center of it and cut a 3rd way on the top part to create the pocket. So guys, I found out what the tool was called. It's actually called a stitching tool, so you can use that tool to create details on the outside. Apply a bit of water and adhere it to the overalls, and now that the grey goggle part has dried, apply water and carefully place it onto the cake by slowly pushing it into the minion. It's so cute! To make the minion's hands, I've just rolled a small ball of black fondant into a thick cylinder and cut 2 lines to create the fingers. I then smoothed out the fingers with my fingers and pinched the bottom part to create the wrists. In a crisscross motion, I've added lines to the back of the hands to help give it friction to adhere onto the cake. For the next step, I've just rolled 2 yellow fondant cones for the arms and added a black strip to cover the hand and arm connecting point. Oopsie daisy, so at this point I noticed I didn't do the back overall, so I quickly rolled some black fondant and used a stitching tool to add the details. For the minions overall straps, roll a black fondant strip, cut it in half, add white stripe patterns and place it over the minion. And use a knife to cut off any excess. For the minion's button, I've just rolled out 2 2cm circles, marked the inside with a smaller circle and added dots using the back of my paintbrush for detail and attached it to the overalls. I've rolled 2 black fondant cylinders out for the legs, and I'm using the palm of my hands to slightly create a cone shape for the shoes. And using a knife, I'm just going to mark the bottom parts for the heels of the shoes. If you like your minion to be a baldy, that's completely fine, but I'm just going to add a little bit of hair to my minion with some black fondant.
Alright guys, you know what the minion's missing? This minion has been a badass, so it's missing a bandana.
Don't you feel like the minion is just too cute to be a badass? But I'm going to add the bandana anyway. I'm going to add it on with a black fondant strip and then just using my knife to cut out the triangle part to make it look more like a bandana. Using a bit of edible ink, I'm just going to add Cupid's heart tattoo to complete the prison minion.
Thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed this live minion tutorial. Happy baking, please subscribe and I'll see you soon.